Let me say a special good morning to those of you listening to Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9. Good morning. Those of you via GBN TV, whether it's Channel 7, Channel 11, or Channel 20. Good morning to you also. Welcome to another edition of To The Point. I'm your host, GT, and I will be with you for the next hour. Good morning once again to those of you via social media platforms, Facebook page, YouTube channels. Good morning, GBN's webpage, gbn.gd. Good morning to you and welcome. It's Opposition Tuesday here on To The Point this morning, and representing this morning the opposition, we have the Honourable Kate Lewis-Peters with us this morning and the Honourable Emmalin Pierre with us this morning representing the opposition. Let me go over to the MPs and say good morning. Good morning to both of you ladies. How are you this morning?
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, GT. It is indeed a pleasure to be here once again, and I'm feeling very good. I must say as well, good morning to all your viewers and listeners this morning.
Oh, certainly, thank you so much. If I missed out on saying Happy Independence, I don't think it's too late to say that to both of you all, but Happy Independence also.
No, the opportunity will come again. I know that.
So good.
Just saying good morning for now.
All right. Ms. Pierre, good morning. How are you? Honourable Emmalin Pierre, good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning to all of your listeners, your viewers, and those who are home here and in the diaspora. Good morning to everybody, and of course, happy independence from the New National Party, and of course from us who are here representing this morning.
All right, let's get the ball rolling this morning in terms of the information we want to share this morning in terms of our discussion this morning. Yesterday, I was via social media, and of course, I saw a new development that it relates to the previous announced increase in salaries for the Imani trainees. I'm not sure which one of you want to chime in on that this morning. Who can speak to this? Let us know. Let us know what's really going on and what's the opposition point of view from that, on that particular issue that is going around right now. I'm not sure which one of you would like to chime in on that this morning.
Okay, I would begin on this issue because as the immediate former Minister for Youth, we understand the importance of the Imani trainees and the contribution that they make towards our country's development as well. Yes, they are trainees, but they too contribute to our country's development. And so this program that engages thousands of young people is a very important one. This program has been and continues to be the flagship program for young people throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. We have, over the years, during our time in office, had a scale upon which trainees received a stipend, which range from $700 based on their level of education up to $1,300. Now, this current administration had announced the minimum wage policy. And of course, we are very and always happy when our people can see an increase in salaries and so. We are always happy about that because especially with the rising cost of living, you need to be able to match it. So when it was announced that Imani trainees as well will receive $500 increase, we were happy for them. But then we started thinking about the whole rationale behind it. Will it really be an increase to our Imani trainees? Or is it a case where the government has to honor its own policy with the minimum wage that was put in place? And I asked the question in my budget presentation, will it be a case where all trainees across the board receive $500? Or is it a case that trainees will be made to go up to the minimum wage? So those with 7, they get 5. If you're at 12 already, you get nothing. If you're at 8, 9, then you get a difference. The question, however, I don't think it was answered. Now, with the release of the document yesterday, clearly answers the question. I see it as another opportunity for the government to right the wrong that they have been doing, but they have not done that. I also see it as governments again misleading our young people. They did it on the campaign trail, said all Emmalin workers will be made permanent. They came back later on and said it cannot happen like that. Now, just before the budget, it was announced the question was asked by the Prime Minister, who will be giving the Emmalin trainees $500 increase in the new budget? That was the question, and they shouted and they clapped and they applaud and so forth. Yesterday, we are getting the truth of, so it's another lie and another attempt to mislead the young people of this country. And as the members of the opposition, we cannot support this.
Now, what's really the genesis of the release? If anyone of you can explain it to me a wee bit. I've read it, but I'm trying to understand the genesis of the release. What is it really about? And it's dated sometime on the 31st of January, if I'm correct about what I saw. Anyone can explain the genesis of that particular release?
So it is a case where the Ministry of Youth has identified an error in government's policy. That is what the release claimed. Not to quote the exact words, but when we were all made to believe that all Emmalin trainees, whether you're in the private or public sector, will receive $500, the release is stating that those in the public sector who received that $500 across the board, it was an error that will be corrected from February 15th, the first tranche of the bi-monthly payment. And that is the problem there, because the workers understood it to be $500 across the board. Now, what they are saying here, it was an error, and it is just to meet the new minimum wage policy. So again, this is clearly an attempt, and they have misled our young people and our Emmalin trainees in particular at this time.
Okay. Now, let's just refocus just a wee bit. We have been getting some reports on youth violence, various parts of the country. Ms. Pierre, I don't know, of course, Junior Period as Minister of Youth, you led several programs that seem to have produced, obviously, fair and pretty good results. Can you share some of the strategies used back then, and if they probably worked? Of course, probably could they be implemented? No. Ms. Pierre, probably you could chime in on that for me.
So just before I do that, thank you for the opportunity. Just to support Sister Kate and the points that she has just raised with regards to the Emmalin trainees. And I think this is very serious as the next issue that you just raised. Now, this is such a perfect case of deception, and we ought to call it out for what it is, deception. Now, these persons, these Emmalin trainees, and as she said, we are always happy for any citizen who is going to benefit from whichever government is in office. They've benefited from us tremendously, and we think it's only fair that they should benefit from other governments as well. Now, when you look at what was promised to these young people, they were going to be made permanent. That was the promise, with no condition. That was the promise. Immediately on assuming office, that promise was tweaked and changed, and they were told it's a process, and it just may not happen as we told you during the campaign. And then deception again. They were told they're going to get this $500 increase. There were no conditions spelled out. It was never said it was only for the public sector Emmalin trainees, right? And immediately after the announcement, people are expecting implementation, and then you say no, it's for the public service trainees only, right? So of course they're expecting 500 plus what they were receiving before. So as former Minister of Youth said, if you are receiving 1,300, for example, you are now expecting 1,800, right? And she did raise the point, I want to just confirm that, because I think this is important. She did ask the question, are you now making this announcement because you are forced to raise the stipend of these trainees to 1,200, or are you genuinely giving them an additional 500? There was silence, deafening silence too. And I think since then, the government knew exactly what it was planning to do, but took these young people down a road. Again, deception, misleading them. And so you give them the additional 500. And within a month, you come back to tell them, no, you are not supposed to get an additional 500. You are just supposed to get a top up to 1,200. Now, I am concerned, and in addition to what was said before, I'm concerned about the effect of this announcement. And to make the announcement in this format is also another concern to me. I would have thought you would call in these young people, put them sit down, give them the justification, and I can't think of any because you've just said it was okay to spend $15 million to celebrate independence. You've been spending quite a large sum on traveling throughout the world, delegations, very huge. So I cannot think of a justification. What could be the possible justification for cutting the amount that you've already given to these persons? If anything, what I expect the government to do is to take a policy position that the 500 will be extended to persons in the private sector and other areas in which they are engaged, not to cut on what was already given. But again, it seems to be the modus operandi of this administration. They said to the elderly people before the election, you know, what you're getting from this current administration then, you know, is below the poverty line. You know, you deserve more. You should get 600. What did they do? Reduce again. So it seems to be a trend, and for the sake of these people who are affected. Now we talk, and we've been talking a lot about mental health. Well, of course, things like that, you want to prepare people mentally for this. You want to speak to them in a way that you're communicating care and love to them, right? Think about the young person who got up and saw this yesterday and is now depressed. And you may wonder, well, what reason could somebody have to be depressed? What about the commitment they just made? What about the facilities that they just engaged, maybe through courts or through some other place, because they now have an increase of $500. They have more space that they can do things. What about the commitments they made a few days ago? Right? And I believe that this is so serious that the administration needs to relook. And I'm going to call on the administration, one, to extend this facility to the private sector as they would have indicated when this was first said, right? So while it was not said directly, quite obvious if you say Imani trainees, every Imani trainee would expect an increase in their stipend, whether it's shared with the private sector or not. They expected an increase. And the second thing, please relook this decision to cut. I mean, in a time like this, people are already stressed and frustrated of the cost of living. You don't go cutting their salary or their stipend, whatever it is, and in the manner that it was done. So now I want to speak to the question that you've just raised. And I'm happy that you said it in this way, because our organization believes very strongly so that anything that worked before, this government should attempt to continue. If something did not work, if it's broken, you fix. If it wasn't broken, then of course you don't fix. And there seems to be a manner in which people operate that if it was done by the previous administration, it should not be continued. And we want to encourage this. Where there are best practices, everybody in the world does this. Best practices, you promote, you improve, you move on. So we would have seen a spike in youth violent activities so many years ago. And of course, a strategic approach was taken. And that's all we say to this administration. A strategic approach is needed, right? Number one, you have to first accept responsibility. You have to take responsibility for what is happening. When you're leading, you take responsibility. So I've heard comments like, well, it's inevitable. It's happening everywhere. Look at St. Lucia, look at here. You know, we can't take that approach to leadership. We have to take responsibility to say, hey, there is a problem. Let us ensure that we act swiftly to bring it under control and to put structures in place to reverse this. Now, one of the things that we did back then was to ensure that there was wide buy-in to the need to take action. And so I remember very clearly, under the Ministry of Youth, there was a lead initiative that would have embraced all stakeholders, the police, all sectors of our society, giving everybody an opportunity to be part of this process, that we identify there's a problem and we work towards a solution. But very, very important, in addition to the issue of stakeholder engagement and consultation, is to engage those people who are directly involved or affected, right? So I cannot think off my head of many blocks around the country that I did not go to, physically engaging with the team and stakeholders with young people on the block. So you're taking a reactive approach and you're also taking a proactive approach. There were the introduction of numerous programs. So even before we had Imani and Empower and all of those things, I remember, for example, that program that was called Project Strong, a direct response, where you literally identified young people who were directly involved in these activities, and you had conflict resolution sessions. I remember us bringing two groups together. Remember, we had what was called the Ginger and the Bloods and the Who and the Who. And I remember being part of a session where we actually brought those guys together. And there were instances where they were even concerned what would come out of those sessions, how they would respond. And those sessions of engaging them as part of the solution. So look at what is happening. What do you think we should do? How do you think this could be solved? What can you do to bring solution to this problem? I recall some of these young men actually pointing to wanting to start their own businesses. And of course, there was an immediate policy shift of the government. So when we look at young people in business today, check back 20 years ago, that was something that young people were afraid of. I remember going to Guyana, sent by the government. I was not even a minister at that time, on an internship in Guyana for 3 weeks. Because what was the objective? The objective was to create a paradigm shift as it relates to young people seeing themselves as creators of employment opportunities, as opposed to just sitting and waiting on the government. So I remember two of these young men who were directly involved, conflict with the law, actually went with me to a session in China. And, you know, I'm smiling now because thinking of these two young people, they are now successful businessmen. At the rally last week, Wednesday, one of the young men who were part of a proactive response. So we said to all of the primary schools, send us the young men. At that time, you had grade 7. Those young men in grade 7, you are concerned, you know, their ability to pass, well, they can't do common entrance then anymore. Send them. And there was a full day program. The pastors were involved, the spiritual development aspect. Secondary schools were now calling to send young men. I looked at one of those young men, full uniform, police officer on parade last Wednesday. So we are saying you have to now look at the situation in a strategic way, and you have to look at your proactive approach and your reactive approach. So this is where many of you would remember that song, and you would remember the program Badness Out of Style. The Badness Out of Style program was launched then. The young people themselves who were involved in these conflicts, they were now going to the school saying, hey, I'm changed, I'm different, I want to be different, and I want you to be different too. They were the persons who were speaking and encouraging young persons at all different levels. So again, the opposition, we're very concerned because this place has been peaceful generally over the years. And I believe a lot of effort went into this. We do not want to affect this in any significant way. And that is why, as a party, we would have called a national consultation. And we called on the government to take a strategic approach, to build on this. We shared the document out of the consultation with the government, and we offered and said we are willing to support any initiative as it relates to this particular matter. What did we see happen in response? The night before our consultation, The government, in a knee-jerk response, came out and said, oh, well, we have this under control, more or less. That's what they were saying. We have a commission that we are appointing. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing that. And we know, I mean, any little child would know that that response was just a response to the NNP having a national consultation. But we said, no problem. We still shared the document. Today, we are still waiting for that national consultation that the government said it was going to have. We are still waiting. We are still waiting for the formation of the commission because we would love to be part of it as well. And so I am appealing this morning to the government that this situation, the increase in gun violence in our country and all other form of crime and violence, we are saying we want to help. We have had best practices before we would love to share with you. And we are saying, let us take a proactive approach where necessary, a reactive where we have to, and let us come up with a strategy that is sound and solid that involves all of our stakeholders. I'm very passionate about this, and our party is extremely passionate too.
All right. We drew for a break, of course, honorable ministers. Let's take that break. When we come back, we get back into the discussion. Stay with us, folks. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio GBN TV. Right back after the...
Planning and Development Authority of Grenada, PDA, is enforcing regulations to curb illegal, disorderly, and unauthorized development in several locations throughout the state of Grenada. The authority is concerned that structures mainly associated with vending are negatively impacting the environment, has undesirable public health and sanitation consequences, present obstructions to vehicle and pedestrian traffic, can become projectiles during adverse weather conditions, and generally affect the aesthetics of the nation. The PDA will work along with stakeholder ministries and institutions to effect the demolition, removal, and disposal of structures which fall in the category of illegal and disorderly development, commencing January 2024. In this regard, persons who vend in or occupy such illegal structures are advised to secure their personal belongings and have the structures removed ahead of the planned PDA demolition operations. These actions of the PDA have become necessary to safeguard and protect public health and the environment, ensure the safety and well-being of all citizens and visitors, discourage any future disorderly construction, and encourage compliance to regulations pertaining to physical development in the state of Grenada. This is a message from the Planning and Development Authority of Grenada.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island.
On the occasion of our Golden Jubilee, let us remember the sacrifices made by our forefathers and celebrate the freedom that we enjoy today.
Let us work together in making Grenada a better place for all. May our country continue to grow and prosper in years to come.
From the Marketing and Business Development Department of the National Lotteries Authority.
Happy 50th anniversary of independence, Grenada.
50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. It's To The Point for today, Tuesday, the 13th day of February. With me this morning representing the opposition, we have for you the Honorable Emmalin Pierre and the Honorable Keith Lewis Peters. Of course, ladies, welcome back, and welcome back to The Point this morning. Let's kind of move on with the conversation a wee bit this morning. We have just had the official ceremonies, I would say, that represents, of course, our 50th anniversary of independence. The celebration continues for an entire year, as the organizing committee mentioned. How have the celebration been going, in your opinion, ministers? Anyone want to chime in? Of course, I guess I will get the opinion from, of course, the Honorable Kate, and of course, Emmalin Pierre. We hope to get your opinion also. How has the celebration been going, in your opinions?
Okay, so GT, I will take this one first. The celebrations I would say have been extravagant and very expensive. And on that day, February 7th, I did not see it because I was on my way home from the stadium after the official ceremony. But from all reviews, people enjoyed what the drone show as well as the fireworks and the entertainment section led by Ricardo Kings Douglas. And of course, we commend the organizing committee for putting together an activity, an event to celebrate our Golden Jubilee that people were quite satisfied with. We commend them for that. However, and I want to put it in this way. As you know, I'm also doing some part-time teaching. And the next day, the day after, one student asked me if I saw it. And I said, no, I didn't see it, but I heard it was very good. And he continued by asking, but miss, was this necessary? Was it necessary to spend all this money to have the drone show? Couldn't we come up with other alternatives, understanding the situation that, our people are faced with at this time in the country? So it means that our young people, while they do accept that it was extraordinary, they are also questioning the need for such activity. So a lot of money was spent in the sky. Up. A lot of money was spent up. The day after, we had a Saraka in La Potre in my constituency. And I was on the ground, of course, monitoring people, and you know how they were supporting the bars and so. And the support was not really there. And in communication with the people, they said the day was very, very slow. I think it built up later at the night, but it means a lot of money was spent in the air and not on the ground. So these are the things we have to look carefully at. How do we prioritize, and what are we prioritizing for? We understand the needs of our healthcare system. It's not anything new, but of course we're going to be investing all these millions of dollars for a celebration. Then we must consider some of the necessities of life to our people as well. And that is how I would respond to it. It was expensive, it was extravagant. A lot of money was spent in the air and not on the ground.
Honorable Pierre, your thoughts on the celebration, on the opinion on the celebration?
Right. So I'm assuming you're speaking about the celebration in general and not just necessarily on the day.
Let's go with general, and if anything in specific you want to add, then you can go ahead.
So on the day, I 100% agree with MP Kate Lewis on, it was a good show of unity, I believe. I saw people of different political affiliation, religious association, different social status, and so on. Nice coming together of our people. And as she said, I want to also applaud the committee for some of the activities, the early launch and all of that. The number of Grenadians that came back, it's 50, and it was something worth celebrating. But I believe and agree with her that we have not seen, and hope we will get a detailed report on the spending for the event or events. But we are concerned, some of the things that we saw, as basic as the distribution of paint. I mean, paint was distributed as if it was water. I mean, I'm not going to share on this forum some of the things that I know firsthand would have happened in the distribution of paint and buntings and so on, and other things. And I'm not just speaking specific here to my constituency, I'm speaking across the board, because the system, the method with which you do something is not what you do, but it's how you do it, right? And if you don't have the necessary checks and balances, if you don't have the necessary system to manage properly, as she said, what you can have is a wastage, right? And so we have to ask ourselves, some of the millions that was spent, is it quite possible that maybe we could have had some high blood pressure medication? I tried to help somebody by sending my driver to the medical center to get some high blood pressure medication some weeks ago. Of course, there were none. This is somebody who is very sick. So I had no choice now but to send the driver to the pharmacy to buy it, because I would feel guilty if something happens and this lady, can't access the medication from the. So is it possible we could have put some into other things that are also very important and more important than some of what we would have seen spent on? And when you have in abundance, I would probably give some leeway and say you could do almost anything. You have in abundance. But when resources are limited, and I'm noting the things that we are referring to limitations about. So there are some things that seems to be no limit. Any amount of paint you want, any amount of bunting, any amount of this, any amount of that. It doesn't matter if it's costing us 100 million for this. Let's do it because it's a special time. But there are some things very important. Medication, food for children in schools. There are some things that just seem to have a very tight limit. And we are saying it should be the opposite in some cases. And we are begging and pleading that this trend does not continue, that there be greater priority given in some cases, and that we can tighten up a bit in some areas, especially when it has to do with fete and celebration and so on. We can exercise a little better control and management over things so that we do not become exorbitant in terms of our spending. The other thing I want to mention that I feel very strongly about, and I am not in isolation on this, many Grenadians have expressed this concern. It is the downplay of people who have really made a significant contribution in where Grenada has reached after 50 years of independence. And let us start with the father of independence himself. Had it not been for him, I don't want to say we would have never gotten independence, but had it not been for him, we would not be celebrating 50. Had it not been for him. And I'm pretty embarrassed about the downplay I saw, right? So yes, I recognize the placing of his face on the $50 note commendation. I think far more could have been done, should have been done in recognizing and applauding him. I noticed a shift, and that is the power of the people. I noticed a shift in the conversation around the day before the 7th, 2 days before the 7th. There was a little conversation started on the government end in recognition. Never too late, but I'm really disappointed that this conversation recognizing Sir Eric Matthew Gary in a significant way, even on the day, I'm very disappointed that he was not given center stage recognition. But not just him. There are many people who feel very strongly, and I share that view with no reservation at all, that on that $50 note, there should have been the face of the political leader of this country who has given the longest number of years of service to this country and would have played, in my opinion and the opinion of many persons, made the greatest contribution in terms of the transformation of this country. And it really doesn't matter who you support, if you love him, you hate him. Let us just be real that this individual, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, would have been our longest serving Prime Minister of this country. There's nothing we can say or do to change that right now. And two, when you look at what he has achieved as a leader in this country, I honestly believe, and I feel very strongly about that his face could have been on the note. And if you say you could have added a face, I would have said add his face. If you say you have to take out one to add it, I would have said we could have taken out the face of Morris Bishop, and we could have done something special for him on October 19th, maybe, if we had to do something. But I believe some recognition, greater recognition, should have been given. And I felt also that it was very disturbing, very disrespectful, the reference made by our Prime Minister to our former Prime Minister in his introduction on the day. I'm not going to repeat it. I think it was very embarrassing, very distasteful, right? The way that he referred to him, I believe he deserved an apology. As a matter of fact, the reference was wrong to start with, and two, it was disrespectful. And I believe if we don't begin to pay greater respect to our leaders who have led this country well, we won't agree with everything they did, but they have served, and they have served well. I said in the Parliament a few days ago, we have two prime ministers, past prime ministers, still with us. I would have loved to see some greater recognition paid in that regard. So, generally speaking, I commend the committee for all the efforts, the early launch, the different activities. I would have also loved to see greater activities at the community level, right? If you go back to the spirit of independence, I really believe more could have done in our schools, in our communities, and I hope that greater effort is made to continue during the year.
Let's continue with the conversation this morning. There's this conversation that's been going around lately in terms of, the opposition, have received that $10,000 for the independence celebration, but the opposition is claiming that is false. And, but they're saying that the government has given the impression that the opposition have received it. Let's get to, maybe you both could shed some light on this particular issue that is going around. Did you receive monies for the independence celebrations or not? Let's get your opinion, let's hear what you have to say pertaining to that.
Okay. So, as Member of Parliament for St. Andrew Northeast, on the opposition side, I said categorically that I have not received any money for independence celebration. Now, let me add to this. I find this administration have been using members of Parliament very loose. And I want to go back to the morning of January 15, where I saw an official note from the government on the government information service page that all ministers and members of Parliament will be pinning in schools and so forth. Number one, I did not know the 50th anniversary pins existed at that time. And number two, when I looked further on, I saw photos of ministers, yes, and some political activists. They're not ministers, they're not members of Parliament, so clearly they're political activists pinning in schools and so. So this might have been the case with the 10,000 that they're claiming that was given to MPs, because they are clearly mistaken who are the MPs in all of the constituencies, and they're being used very loose. So I have not received anything, and I can speak for myself and all of the other members of the opposition. We have not. So MP Pierre can add to this.
Right, and what I would add, basically confirming, none of the members of the opposition has received monies from the government for the independence celebration. And what we also find distasteful is the fact that members of the government who know better are actually sending their supporters and other persons to us, telling them, and this is a fact, I'm not the only MP who has had that experience, telling them that we have received $10,000 for the independence celebration. Let me say, none of the MPs on the opposition side would have received to this date, any money at all. So whether it's 2,000, 10,000, 5,000, no monies from the government as it relates to independence celebration. Let me just add to this that we received just about 2 weeks before February 7th. Well, let me speak of how I received my communication. Maybe MP Lewis may have had a slightly different, but I don't think it would be very far from my experience. It would be very similar. So I got a call from someone who is associated with the NNP, working at the office of the New National Party, I got a call from them indicating that the government is giving all MPs $10,000 for beautification and decoration in the constituencies. Now, later on, I got a verbal communication again saying that we have to submit a bank account number. Now, that kind of loose communication, in my opinion, and that's the best description, that I can find, does not represent any government, in my opinion. And number one, I refuse to respond to this. And the team later on met and felt that anything to do with the spending of government monies by the MPs in this fashion for the purpose that we would prefer to have some official correspondence specifying what is the amount, what is it to be used for, etc., etc. As a matter of fact, we took a policy position that we believe that there has been sufficient wastage in many cases as it relates to some of those decorations and so on, painting and so on, and that we were not going to add to it. We believe that people had sufficient access to paint and bunting. As a matter of fact, the message that I got is whatever among people want, they can get it. That's the message I got. And so we did not feel that we want to waste government resources. $10,000 by 5. That's $50,000 that we felt could be better spent, and also that 2 weeks was not sufficient time. You know, this kind of loose way of operating, we are concerned. And so we feel that if the government is going to provide $10,000 to the opposition MPs, that it should be well spent, and that the people of the constituencies that we come from should benefit directly from these monies. And so we have agreed that if it's available, we are going to access it. And the bottom line is we are not going to be using it for any painting or any decorations. The intention is that it must be used for people who can benefit from it, and that the government ought not to be in a deceptive way misleading people to say, go to them, they have the monies, because they know they have not transferred any money to us, or they have not given us any money as it relates to the independence celebration. As a matter of fact, we would like to have some conversations, not just about this $10,000. We would like to have some conversation as it relates to the other $10,000, which we are very concerned again. And this one came in writing. And even in writing, we are very concerned what we see in black and white and what you are asking us to do in terms of this. And so we have requested several times, and we are hoping that those responsible from the parliament end, from the government end, that we're going to be able to sit down and have a proper conversation as it relates to the way forward on those issues.
All right, Peace. A decision was made of, in terms of banning amplified music on Independence Day. We have heard, of course, citizens complain about it. What's your thoughts on that particular decision of the banning of amplified music on, Independence Day? What's your thoughts on that?
Okay, GT, sometimes it's not about what is done, but how it is done. 2 days before the independence celebration, you are revoking permission from people who were given the opportunity to have the activities as they have done customary throughout the years. Have you considered the loss that they will face? Who will bonds supporting them or reimbursing them for this loss? And that is the problem here. How it was done. It shows clearly that this administration is not planning properly. They are not forward thinkers. And as a result, this is what we are seeing. It also shows that the government is exerting a power over the people without consulting and communicating with the people. And we cannot under no circumstance accept this way of dealing with our citizens. The ordinary men, they came out and they spoke up. It was distasteful, again, an opportunity where they can raise a little finance for themselves to support themselves and the family. You have revoked it, okay? And it was admitted that the reason why it was done to get everyone to be at the National Stadium. Can we think back over the years how this administration treated the National Independence Day over the years, organizing separate activities at Common Park? Yet, on this Golden Jubilee, you decided to ban all activities, forcing people against their will to be at the National Stadium. No, we do not operate like this. We have never done it. And I would say to this government, they need to assess the losses people face at that time and look at some ways in which they can reimburse these organizers of activities.
Honorable Pierre, your thoughts on that, on that decision that was made?
Yeah, I would say we enjoyed a freedom that obviously was taken away on the 7th of February. And what a day to take that away from people. I mean, I was extremely shocked that the high-handedness, the dictatorial approach that was taken on that day. But you know what is worse about this? Is the blame game that took place after. So again, going back to what I said earlier, when you're in government, when you're leading, you have to take responsibility. You have to accept responsibility when things go wrong. You cannot run away and hide and say it's not you, it's the police. I mean, who is the police, right? Who does the police take orders from? And then to go to attack the competence of the police in terms of their communication skills and the communication ability, oh my God. I mean, I don't think it could have gotten worse than this, right? So I think the Commissioner of Police deserves an apology on this one. I wouldn't ask him to come out publicly and say who gave the instruction, but don't make it appear, the police on their own just decided to do this. We know for a fact that the police acted on instructions, right? And let us say worst case scenario, because these things get so, scary sometimes. Let's just say worst case scenario, that you were disappointed in the ability of the police to prepare a press release that captured what you wanted them to do. Well, of course, you had sufficient time to pull it back. I've seen, as a matter of fact, let me just use an example. I saw the Prime Minister's, a press release from the Prime Minister's office sympathizing with the person who would have designed our national flag, which went out publicly. And shortly after that, there was another email which said, updated statement, right? Shortly after, right? As a matter of fact, I was kind of curious to see what was the update, and I actually looked at both releases. And I'm saying, we're not fools. Why are you treating us that way? Why are you trying to treat us like fools? We are not. So if you issue a press release today, and there's an issue with the wording, and you want to say, well, it's not everybody, it's some people you're referring to, then you had ample time to give an updated notice of the change or the correction. So do not treat us as fools. That a press statement was issued, you read it, you agreed with it, and then 2 days after, because people complained, you now say, no, that's not what we meant. We meant something else to what the police would have said. To me, that is a terrible sign of how this government is managing its business, is managing its affairs. And there are persons who are smart enough, wise enough to know that this is just a game, right? This is just trickery. This is just deception. And unfortunately, there are those who don't understand this. I'm saying, let's be real with people. Let's be honest with people. You messed up. It's okay to say you messed up and you're going to correct it. You're not going to do this again. And I totally agree. The government should appoint a small committee, just as was done for other things in the past, a small committee to investigate genuine losses. So I'm not advocating that everybody who said they had this should be compensated, but people who genuinely were affected and suffered losses should be compensated. I had someone literally shed tears, not a supporter of mine, but I felt it for that person. I honestly felt it because that person had to literally borrow the resources to invest in the activity that they were going to have. So it means that this person would have lost, but still have to repay the source that they would have borrowed the money from. And I'm saying, let's use a heart now and look at this and genuinely identify persons who are affected by this and who should be compensated, where they should be compensated. As I said, it should be properly investigated, and where there's a genuine case, they should be supported.
All right. All right, so let's take a break. We come back. We invite some calls from our listening and viewing public. If they do have a question or two they may like to ask just after the break, we'll take a short break and we will be right back. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
Get ready to witness the ultimate show.
I want you to control your anger. There's a way to feel better. That's one thing to remember. No matter where you are, you can be a star. Stop and take a deep breath and relax yourself. Take another deep breath and relax it, and relax it. Eliminate violence. Rock the box, we say, yeah. GBN, we say, arts and culture living, yeah. Rock the box, we say. I'm telling you, rock the box, rock the box, rock the box, we say. I'm telling you, rock the box, rock the box, rock the box, we say. We'll be jamming here on a Thursday. It's a
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to my guest this morning. We did plan on taking some calls from our listeners and the viewers this morning. Let's take our very first call. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning, GT. Good morning to the two MPs. Okay, my question is not about the grievance of the MPs and them. I mean, they could hold that in Parliament. That's what Parliament is for, to know how much money spent and how it did spend. My question to the two MPs is about, it's around 2 years now since you guys haven't had a convention. And we know whenever you have a convention, to the next convention, that the executive members, all the executive position will be up for grabs, including the leadership. So right now, you guys, based on your constitution, you're operating without a political leader of your national party. All right. So my question to the MPs, I would like to know that if, especially Emmalin, Pierre, if she would be putting up herself for leadership of the new national party, because we heard Mr. Peter David said on the Bob report that he will be putting up himself also for leadership of the party. And my another question, I would like to know, when is the convention? Because if the Prime Minister call election today or tomorrow, that means you're going into an election without a political leadership. And I would like the two MP also to explain the situation about the convention, like say, like when the time expired, what did your constitution of your party say concerning the executive members and the leadership, if they must have an election within that time, otherwise you're operating without a leadership.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution this morning. Any response to the caller, MPs?
Okay, so I would respond to this. Let me first say this. I'm not going to guess whether this is a supporter of the New National Party or not, but I suspect, or I draw the conclusion that this is not a supporter of the NNP. But I find it rather interesting that the caller doesn't seem to care about gun violence increase in the country, doesn't seem to care that our young people, their lives are at stake, their lives are at risk. In Mount Horn, Paraclete route, a bus is stopped, I understand, and persons with cutlasses looking for individuals on the bus, claiming that they're going to kill them, according to the report that I have before me. We have people who continue to suffer in this country because of this increase that we have seen. People pop up in a party and a gun goes off. I got a call 2 weeks ago in Mount Fan, for example, where gunshots were just going off like if it was a game, right? And that's not just in one area, throughout this country. So I find it very strange that the caller would make a statement as if to indicate these things are not important. Let us talk about the convention of the New National Party, right? But also, not only that, we've just had a situation where this government allocated very huge sums, millions of dollars, towards the celebration of our 50th anniversary of independence. And we are convinced without a shadow of a doubt that some of the money spent cannot be truly justified, considering that people are going to the hospital and basic medication they cannot find. People are going to medical centers, basic medication they cannot find. Children in school are being served bread and hot dog more than one day of the week. And caller, you are saying that what is most important to talk about this morning is a convention of a political party? I would put this last on the list, quite honestly. But as I said, I could understand why it's a concern to you. But let me just address the convention. Number one, I'm not sure which constitution you're looking at, but as far as I'm aware, the New National Party has a strong, healthy political leader in the person of Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell. When the party's executive considers it necessary to call a convention, the executive of the party, not Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Mitchell cannot call a convention. He would be out of place to do so. When the executive of our party decides that it is ready, and according to the Constitution, the systems are in place coming out of the last general election that we lost, that the systems are now in place, the executive, of which I'm a part, will take a decision to so call a convention. As it is right now, there's no vacancy for leadership of our party, and I would not be so bold to offer myself for any position where there is no vacancy. So when there is a vacancy for political leader of the party, maybe then, who knows, I may just make a decision as to whether I should or should not offer myself. So caller, I am happy that you have such great interest in the New National Party that you would put it above the interests of our people. But let me just say this, all is well with the New National Party. We are doing our work and we are following our constitution as it relates to preparation for a convention. And I feel quite comfortable and satisfied with the process thus far.
Let us entertain another caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning, sir. Good morning to Miss Pierre and good morning to Miss Kate. Yesterday, my daughter fell sick and I went to Grenville to a doctor. And attended by the doctor, I paid my money, gave me my prescription, go to the pharmacy, and I cannot get the medication. The pharmacists are telling me that the doctor didn't pay his license, and I go back to the doctor for my money. The doctor telling me it's something to do with the government and NMP and NDC and all these problems in the country. So I'm like, boss, I'll give back my money because I paid for a service. And lo and behold, I go to the next doctor in Grenville, seeing like all the doctors in Grenville, they are seeing people. But people can't get the medication because the doctor doesn't pay their license as they say, as the pharmacist them say. But I'm saying that how can you have people going to doctors and they can't get the medication? My daughter is sick, but I'm saying somebody might be sicker than her and they need to stay alive with the medication. So you have a whole system in St. Andrews. People going to the doctors there and they cannot get the medication. You know, so this is a serious something. I don't know how you could have something like that in a country where people go into the doctor and they can't get the medication. This is crazy, this. If anything wrong with my daughter, who is government responsible for that, you know? So this is something serious.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution. Any response to the caller? Anyone of the MPs?
These are exactly the things that concern me, the things I'm interested in right now, the things I would love to discuss, the things I would like to offer suggestion. I've given several suggestions, recommendation free of cost. I would be more than happy to give some suggestions on how we can address this problem, because we already have a shortage of doctors. We already have a situation where people are finding it difficult to access medical services, which is a basic human fundamental right. And I'm saying this issue has been in the air for a bit, and I heard it some weeks ago. It's been on the radio programs all over. I would think by now there would be some accelerated move to find a solution to this in the interest of our people. So let's talk things that, has to do with the immediate needs and the suffering and the problems that our people face so that we can find solution. I'm not concerned about the NMPN convention. I'm concerned about the issues that are facing our people, the problems that they are going through, problems that there are solutions to, that maybe together. And as I said, I would love to be part of that commission that was referred to some time ago as it relates to crime. I would give up my time to serve on this commission if the government sees it fit. I'm saying these are the things we're interested in. I'm really not interested at this stage about the issue of leadership of the New National Party as I am about the issue of our people and the problems that they are facing. The NMP is minding its business. It's doing what it has to do. Let the nation do same.
All right.
Let the nation do the same and move forward.
Let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Yeah, good morning to your esteemed guest. Keith Mitchell ain't going nowhere. Staying right there. But let me tell you, Miss Pierre and to the other lady, you all should be proud of yourself. You all should be proud of the achievements. Because as far as I am concerned, and I don't care who vexed, the two people that really developed Grenada, when I tell you so, I tell you so, that really significantly contributed to the development of this country, and that people that just a certain person downplaying is Keith Mitchell and Gary. And it is shameful that a man who had so much things against that independence, Morris Bishop, and you launch on Independence Day. Everybody know how Morris was anti the independence, and don't talk about the atrocities he committed and the length of service. Look how we ended up in a disaster. And you put Morris on the note instead of Keith Mitchell, and I had to have no apologies for condemning them for that. And I want to say to you all ladies that the two people that really developed Grenada is Keith Mitchell and the other one, and you all ought to be proud of it. He has really transformed this country, and I want to call on the government right now to pay the workers of the faith institutions, because however you call it, because I know of about 4 people who has not received their money, and this is a thing that I cannot support. I have to condemn it, and I call on the government, forget about MMP, but pay the people. So Ms. Pierre and you all keep the good courage, and as a matter of fact, I have already spoke about the extravagant spending of all this independence celebration, when you have people sleeping on the floor in institutions and people are poor in this country, that they have to get the priorities right, and I already condemn that. But what I really want to end on, you all should
Caller,
be
would you
proud
take another 10 seconds and wrap, please?
Right, so you all should be proud of your achievement. The new National Party did transform this country, and Keith Mitchell should be the one on the $15 vote and not Morris Bishop. And I have no apologies for saying so, so keep up the good work.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Let's take another caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome. Caller, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
I just listening. First time caller, and I have to chime in right now. I have to come in because this previous caller that calling and talk about NNP and its convention and if Miss Pierre is going to offer ourselves. This is not the time for that. We the people hurting. We cannot get medication. This is hurting. As I speak now, I'm trembling. This is hurting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning. Sorry, we're unable to entertain you, caller. Your whatever device you have in the background is too loud. 435-2041. We probably have just about a few more minutes left on the program. Let's entertain this caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I will support that lady 100%. And I will say that definitely that lady speaks her heart and she mind, because the majority of projects that go on in Grenada.
Entertain another caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning to you.
I would ask Ms. Pierre that if she see the two videos that are going around on Facebook with President Trump talking about the election and what they shouldn't vote for Dickon. I want to find out, because they're talking you should vote for NNP. How much involved is the NNP in that artificial intelligence tape that is going around on Facebook?
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Any response to the caller? Please, we do have a few more minutes before we take a wrap this morning.
Right. So if you permit me, I would like to respond to two callers there, please. The first one, who I identify as Anne-Marie, and I'm singling her out, and I'll tell you why. Two things. Number one, her reference to payment of outstanding workers, and she didn't put it this way, but I believe that what we're seeing playing out here is literally trying to burn down a church to kill a cockroach. And I'm saying it's okay, kill the cockroach if you have to. If you really need to kill the cockroach, do that. But save the church. That's all I'll say on this subject. The second thing is the issue, and I made a note of it, right. My respect for this caller, and I have to single out, forgive me. I remember being on programs like these, and I literally prepared for questions from her. This is somebody who would have point out every possible weakness of the NNP while the NNP was in office, and would have identified several suggestions of better ways that things could have been done. I am amazed at how this individual is now being attacked by the same people who praised her when she attacked Dr. Keith Mitchell in the past. I am amazed at how people are attacking her now. The people who rejoiced with her when she made those comments in the past are now attacking her because she's simply pointing out things that this administration is doing that could be done better, could be done differently. Lastly, and quickly, the videos that the caller is referring to, I can speak to, well, the caller referenced one video, but it's very interesting, and I think we have to be prepared for the future that is going to be heavily driven, heavier than is driven now by technology, and the role that artificial intelligence is going to be playing in the future of this country. And I've heard persons in labor expressing a bigger concern than a video of this nature, which is what implications are there for labor in our country? How many people are going to possibly lose their jobs and won't be able to feed their families because of artificial intelligence? What are the benefits we are likely to draw from artificial intelligence? So now to address the secondary matter, which is the two videos the caller referred to. So I saw a video shared in social media attacking Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell in a very profound way. Obviously, I looked at it and I figured out it obviously could not have been real, and it had to be artificial intelligence. Several people contacted me expressing concern. Is it true that Donald Trump would have paid for Dr. Mitchell for his department? Is it true? Is it true? Several persons reached out to me, and I had to explain to them, some people, what is artificial intelligence, because they had no clue. Later on that day, I saw another video, in my opinion, attacking the current Prime Minister. And let me just say to the caller that as far as I'm aware, I don't know where those two videos would have originated from. I don't know if it's the same person. One of them referred to the author as an entertainer, so I don't know if somebody is entertaining themselves and others by creating those videos. I don't appreciate any of them, right? Neither the one that attacks the former Prime Minister Keith Mitchell, nor the one that attacks the current Prime Minister. I don't support either of them. But I'm saying we are in a world where artificial intelligence is becoming slowly the author of the day in many regards, and we have to continue to educate our people about the creation and the dissemination of information that is not healthy, that is not promoting positive in whatever ways that we can in our individual capacities.
Let's take our final call and then we get some closing comments from you both. Let's lost that caller. There's some more or less. We may just take those closing comments. Honorable Pierre, any closing comments before we take a wrap for today?
No, I would just say this, that going back to the subject of independence, I want to commend Dr. Wendy Crawford and her team and all of the persons at the parish level that would have supported the activities and would have worked hard. Some people work very long days and long nights. I want to commend them. I want to also say that we believe that Grenada deserves to celebrate independence in a big way, but we are just saying that we have some concern about monies that could have been better spent. I want to just reiterate that at this point up to until 10:14 right now, no member of the opposition has received monies from the government as it relates to celebration of independence. And I just want to appeal to the government, one, that they move swiftly as it relates to the growing crime situation in our country, that they move swiftly to identify if there's any person who is seriously affected by the losses they would have had based on a policy decision of the government. And I just want to appeal to the government to swiftly reconsider that decision to cut the pay of Imani trainees at this time. And I just want to encourage, let us move forward, continuing to build upon what we have inherited as it relates to this country, and let's move forward.
All right. Kate Lewis, any closing comments from you this morning?
Yes. Thank you very much again, GT. It was indeed a pleasure, and we must say thanks for always giving us the opportunity to air our views and express our concerns. Yes, we are still in that independence mode, and there was a call for unity. There was a show of unity to a certain extent. And I hope that, as one people, as we move forward, we can, consider that to truly develop our country, that all hands must be on deck. And the government must realize that. So the maligning of some of our people, the maligning of the people who are at the lower strata in society, we are very much concerned about that. We realize that the government is a lot about optics and so forth, but optics not paying the bills right now, optics not putting food on the table for our people. So we want them to refocus, and this at this time saddened that the new Emmalin trainees would have a cut in their salary moving forward. And these are things I'm asking the government to reconsider, because the cost of living is indeed rising, and the intent to deceive our people, we cannot accept that under no circumstances. But as we move forward, I just want to encourage all of our people, especially our youth, that, we must remain focused, we must hold strong and keep hope alive. Thank you. It was indeed a pleasure.
I want to thank you both for being on the program this morning, and best wishes for the rest of the day. Folks, that's where we take a wrap for this edition of To The Point. Bit over time this morning, but it was for a good reason. Until then, have yourself a good one, folks. That's what we say. Goodbye.